Hello friends, in this video we are going to start with a discrete time convolution. Let us begin. To start with a discrete time convolution, let us summarize its formula. So now consider a system having, let's say, input as x of n and assume that its output is y of n. This system has an impulse response, let us say it is h of n. Let's say this x of n is known to me, this h of n is known to me, what is required is y of n. Then we use a concept of convolution. So we relate output, input along with impulse response of the system in this way. We write y of n is equal to x of n convolution with h of n. Is that right? Or a mathematical formula can be written as y of n is equal to summation k is varied over minus infinity to plus infinity x of k multiplied by h of n minus k. So this is the important formula, or this is the only formula to have a discrete time convolution. This formula is very important. If you know this formula, then only you can solve the problems. So if I want to do this discrete time convolution, then I need to follow some standard steps. So let us see what steps are required if you want to carry out a discrete time convolution. So these are steps to be followed for discrete time convolution. Step number 1 says replace n with k and get x of k and h of k. Let us understand what is the need of it. For that, we will recall the formula of discrete time convolution. If you refer this formula, you require x of k. And let me tell you, whenever you want to carry out discrete time convolution, what is known to us is x of n along with h of n. So in most of the cases, what is given factor? So given things are x of n and h of n. And what is required? That is y of n. So y of n is a question mark for us. And if you want to get y of n, then you have to refer this formula. And to do so, first of all, we replace n with k. Therefore, now x of n becomes x of k. And h of n becomes h of k. So this is a very simple step. We are just replacing n with k. In this, we are not going to change a signal properties. Only thing that we are changing, that is independent variable. Again, it is nothing but a time variable only. The only difference is that we are just replacing n with k. It really doesn't alter the property of the system or property of the given signal x of n. We have to do so as to satisfy this formula, because we require x of k here. Step number 2, that we have to get h of minus k by time reversal property. Why so? Because if you see this h of n minus k, now x of k is available with us. What is required is h of n minus k. In h of n minus k, if you see, the independent variable is k now, because we have already got h of k now. So h of n minus k can be seen like this: h of minus k plus n. And we know that we always try to make the independent variable coefficient free, and to do so, what I'll be doing is I'll do it like this: h of, I'll take minus 1 out, what remains inside? K minus n. And now if you, let's say, want to plot this h of k minus n, in that case we follow left to right approach, in which we first of all do a time reversal, and that's the reason why we go for this step, that is step number 2. So step number 1, step number 2 is over. In step number 1, we just replaced n with k, so we got x of k, h of k. In step number 2, we just did a time reversal, so from h of k we have transformed it to h of minus k. So what happened in step 2 is just h of k is converted into h of minus k. Very simple. Step number 3 says get h of n minus k. Why to get h of n minus k? Obviously because formula demands it. because as I said, x of k is already available in step number 1, h of n minus k was pending. So to get h of n minus k, you have to use a time shifting property. And why so? Because you know that whether you see this h of n minus k or this term, it is one and the same thing, right? So in this, first of all, what you did is time reversal. That is the first step. And in second step, what you're going to do is, now it is minus n, it means you have to delay by n. So we use a time delay property. That time delay property means what we called as a time shifting. And after doing so, now x of k is also available, h of n minus k is also available. Just review the formula. What we require a multiplication here. That's the reason why step number 4 demands that to multiply x of k with h of n minus k. See, these steps are basically made looking at the formula only. Now step number 5. Now what is left? Once the multiplication is done, we have to perform a summation. Is that right? So step number 5 says do summation of x of k dot h of n minus k and do the summation for every value of n. Now what does that mean? I'll try to make you understand. If you see this summation, okay, this summation, the k variable is moving from minus infinity to plus infinity. In the bracket we have x of k dot h of n minus k, and this whole is equal to what? Y of n. Is that right? So in first step, what I'll do is, let's say I'll put n equal to 0, so I'll get y of 0. Then for n equal to 1, I'll get y of 1. Similarly, for n equal to 2, I'll be getting y of 2. Now for every value of n here, that is n equal to 0, n equal to 1, we have to perform this summation. So we have to perform this summation. So I guess this would be quite clear to you only if we start with an example. Okay, so just remember these steps. First step is to change the variable and to replace time variable n with k. So k is just a dummy variable which is required from the point of view of formula. Then from h of k, get h of minus k and convert h of minus k to h of n minus k. Once x of k and h of n minus k is available to you, multiply them. And in step number 5, perform summation. So once you multiply them and then you perform summation, the y of n is ready. Let's see. I have started with a very simple example. Thereafter, we'll increase the complexity and then we'll start with the gate problems also. First question says x of n is having two elements 1 and 3 and h of n is having two elements, that is 3 and 4. Evaluate y of 1 and y of 2. So we know what is the formula. Formula says it is y of n is equal to summation. K is changed from minus infinity to plus infinity. In the bracket, what we have is x of k h of n minus k. Is that right? So we are going to follow the steps. Step number 1. So we are replacing n with k. As I said, signal parameters or signal properties are not going to change. Therefore, x of k is going to remain same. Only independent variable name is changed, 1, 3, and of course h of k is equal to what? It is 3, 4, right? The arrow mark were given here. We understand what is the significance of arrow mark when signal is a discrete time signal and expressed in the form of sequence. So we understand that for x of k, if arrow mark is shown here, it indicates x of k at k equal to 0, and this arrow mark indicates h of k value at k equal to 0. So arrow mark indicates k equal to 0 position. In that case, we'll start with step number 2. Step number 2 just says convert h of k to h of n minus k. In fact, first of all, we convert h of k to h of minus k. So we'll correct it. Is that right? So let's say our h of k is 3, 4, and we have an arrow mark here. When you do time reversal, we know that what really happens in time reversal. For example, I'll just take some dummy example here just to make you understand how time reversal property works. Let's say we have 1, 2, 3, 4. This is some sequence, and we have an arrow mark here. Assuming some other function, let's say f of n. If I want to perform this f of minus n, that is time reversal property, then n equal to 0 position is not going to alter, it is going to remain same. Okay, only things are going to change. All these left elements get shifted here, and all right hand side elements get shifted here. In that case, I can write f of minus n as, so on right hand side of 3 it was 4, so 4 comes here, and rest of the elements get shifted here. Is that right? So this is how this time reversal takes place when it comes to a discrete time convolution. Using same logic, try to understand this 4 will get shifted here. Okay, so it becomes 4 comma 3. As I said, in time reversal, n equal to 0 position doesn't change, therefore arrow mark remains here only. Is that right? So I'm sure now you have understood how to go for a time reversal property when it comes to a discrete time convolution. Fine. In next step, we know that we have to prepare for h of n minus k, and h of n minus k can be seen like this, h of minus k plus n, or I can see it like this, h of, I'll take minus 1 out so as to make k coefficient free. What remains inside? K minus n. So we do this in 2 steps. First of all, we do a time reversal, which we have already done with h of k, and then we delay by n. Why I'm delaying by n? Why not advancing by n? Because of the negative sign. We know that negative sign indicates a delay, positive sign indicates advance. So right now, I have already done with a time reversal. I have to delay by n, but let me tell you, value of n is not known to me, and if it is not known to me, I don't know by how much amount I want to delay the sequence. So what I'll do, I'll just fit it into formula first. For example, let me talk about y of n formula. So I have already written that formula here. You can see this formula I'm talking about. So just read the question. What I don't want complete y of n. I want y of 1 and y of 2. So y of 1 means what? It is y of n at n equal to 1. So what I'll do is, I'll substitute n equal to 1 in this equation, that is equation number 1. So I'll substitute n equal to 1 in equation number 1. So now what I'll get is y of 1. It is summation k will be changed from minus infinity to plus infinity, x of k, h of, now value of n is 1, so it will be 1 minus k. Is that right? So h of 1 minus k means what? It is h of minus k plus 1, that is h of, I'll take minus 1 out, it becomes k minus 1. So when I'm going from left to right, first step is to do a time reversal, which we have already done. So we have h of minus k available here, and thereafter we have to delay by 1. So to convert h of minus k to h of 1 minus k, we just delay by 1. Now the question is how to delay the sequence by 1 in case of discrete time convolution. So again, I'll take some dummy example and I'll get back to this. For example, we have this sequence 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, I'm just taking a dummy sequence here. Let us consider a arrow mark here, and considering this sequence as f of n. So consider this is f of n, and let's say if I want to go for f of n minus 1. Okay, so what I'm actually trying to do, I'm going to delay this sequence by 1. So whenever, you know that even in a continuous time signal, whenever we used to shift the signal, okay, we used to shift in 2 ways, that is either delay or we advance it. whenever we delay the signal gets shifted to the left, and whenever we advance the signal gets shifted to the right on time scale. Similar things are going to happen here. Imagine 1 2 3 4 as a sequence. Okay, see, this 1 2 3 4 is getting shifted to the right when you delay, and of course this 1 2 3 4 on time scale will get shifted to the left when it get advanced. But what we will do is, we can either shift the signal or we can shift the arrow mark also. Try to remember this. I'm talking about this arrow mark. So whenever you delay the signal, shift the arrow to the left, and whenever you are advancing the signal, shift the arrow to right. So I repeat, whenever you are shifting the signal, okay, in delay sense, you shift your signal to the right. So whether you shift your signal to the right or you shift the arrow to the left, it is one and the same thing. Okay, so I'll talk it in terms of arrow. So whenever you want to delay the sequence by 1, just shift your arrow towards left by 1 position. So let me tell you, 1 2 3 4 sequence remains same, only arrow gets shifted here. Very simple. And let's say if I want to make it f of n minus 2, then arrow will get shifted here. So I'll remove the arrow from here, and now it has become f of n minus 2. Is that right? So as you could see, original arrow was at 3. So whenever I want to shift the signal, that is in delay sense, by 2, then shift the arrow towards left 2 times. Of course, for advancing the signal, we have to shift the n equal to 0 position to right. Okay, and by how much amount? Now that depends upon how much delay or how much advance you want. So likewise, now I'll get back to my sum. So if h of minus k is delayed by 1, I'll get h of 1 minus k. We know that whenever we delay, we shift our arrow to the left by the amount by which we want to delay. Here we want to delay only by unit, that is only by 1. Then this arrow mark just gets shifted to the left by 1 position. Therefore it becomes 4 comma 3. Only thing, arrow mark comes here now. Is that right? So let me tell you, now x of k is ready with us, h of n minus k is also ready with us. What we want to do with this, we want to multiply it, right? So let me remind you, what is x of k? X of k is 1 comma 3, and h of 1 minus k is 4 comma 3, and we have an arrow mark here. Is that right? Then we know the next step. Now we will be multiplying these two signals. Okay, so let us multiply them. So y of 1 is equal to summation k is equal to minus infinity to plus infinity x of k multiplied with h of 1 minus k. Is that right? So let's say if I want to multiply these two sequences, then what we do? We perform multiplication sequence wise. That is, k equal to 0 position gets multiplied with k equal to 0. So let me just copy the same x of k and h of n minus k once again. So whenever you multiply this, the first two elements gets multiplied. So 1 into 4 is 4, and 3 into 3 is 9. Arrow mark is going to remain here. Is that right? So you know what? The product of x of k and h of 1 minus k is ready. So you know what? Multiplying them is ready. Now what is to be done? See, what does that mean? It says do the summation of all samples. It says just do summation of all the samples. So how many samples we have here? We have two samples. We just sum it up. It becomes 9 plus 4 and it gives you 30. So y of 1 is straight away 30. So we wanted to calculate y of 1 and y of 2. We are ready with both, right? We have y of n. So I'll just recall the formula, k equal to minus infinity to plus infinity x of k dot h of n minus k. Now at n equal to 2, I'll be getting y of 2. So y of 2 becomes summation k equal to minus infinity to plus infinity x of k h of 2 minus k this time. If you remember, in first step we had h of 1 minus k, and how did we get h of 1 minus k? We delayed h of minus k by 1, so we got h of 1 minus k. Similarly, to get h of 2 minus k, we will delay h of minus k by 2. So x of k is already with us. H of 2 minus k is something that we need to opt in now. Recall what was h of minus k? H of minus k was 4 comma 3 with arrow mark here. You know that what is h of 2 minus k? It is h of minus k plus 2, or I can write this as h of minus 1. I'll take common, what remains inside, k minus 2. So in first step we do this, that is time reversal. In second step we are going to delay it by 2. We know that whenever we delay, shift arrow to the left. By how many times? Of course here 2 times. In that case 3 comma 4 remains here only, so arrow gets shifted here and arrow gets shifted here. But then before 4 there was no sample, we can write 0, but now arrow mark got shifted here. So in a way this has become h of 2 minus k. This h of 2 minus k is going to get multiplied with x of k. So I'll write that x of k here now. What was x of k? X of k was 1 comma 3, and we wanted to multiply this. Let us multiply. 0 into 1 we have 0, 4 into 3 we can write 12, 3, and again if nothing is there we can treat this 0. 3 into 0, it is 0. Needless to tell you, arrow remains at the same position. So this is the product of x of k into h of 2 minus k. Once this product is ready, what is remaining? Only summation. So summation means what? Do summation of all the samples present here. So how much it comes to be? 12. Therefore y of 2 is summation of all this, which is 12. Finally we have y of 1 equal to 13 and y of 2 equal to 12. Is that right? Now the problem is this method is quite lengthy. Okay, the reason why I'm saying lengthy, because here only y of 1 and y of 2 is asked. What if I want to calculate whole y of n? Okay, in that case number of samples will keep on increasing. Okay, number of this mathematics complexity will keep on increasing, and it is quite a lengthy method. When it comes to GATE examination, I always say that you have to save your time, and to save time we should know an alternative to this method. Of course, before learning any shortcut method, it is quite essential that you should understand a traditional method also, because sometimes you will come across such problems where shortcut doesn't apply but traditional method really helps. So knowing traditional methods are equally important. Let us go for the best method or alternative method for this, known as a tabular method. What is tabular method? We'll understand. So in this tabular method, again I'll just copy the question x of n and h of n. So x of n having two samples 1 and 3, n equal to 0 position here, and h of n is also having two samples, that is 3 and 4, arrow mark present here. So first step, as you can see in tabular method, I'm going to write it in the form of table, that is in the form of rows and columns. So 2 arrow marks I'm making here. Okay, what I'm doing, I'm allotting x of n here and I'm allotting h of n here. Let me tell you, these positions you can swap, like you can write x of k here and you can write h of k here. It is not going to matter. Okay, let me just copy what was my x of n. It is 1 comma 3. So I'll write here 1, I'll write 3, and h of n sequence wise only you have to write. This is 3 and this is 4. Now start with a row, that is this row, and just try to multiply with every column element. That is 3 into 1, it is 3, 3 into 3, it is 9. Okay, then starting with the second row, 4, multiply with each column, that is 4 into 1, it is 4, and 4 into 3, it is 12. Once these products are ready, make diagonals the way I'm making here. So these are diagonals. Once these diagonals are made, whatever elements that you see in diagonal, just keep on adding them. What does that mean? I'll tell you. So from a very first diagonal, the element that we get is 3. In second diagonal, there are 2 elements added. 9 plus 4, it becomes 30. And in the last diagonal, we have again one element, that is 12. Okay, eventually this 3, 13 and 12 is nothing but your y of n. So surprisingly, this is y of n, and we have 3 elements, 3, 13 and 12. Now the question is where arrow mark will come. So it is also very simple. X of n equal to 0 position was here, and h of n equal to 0 position here. Okay, so just extend it and have a common element. So this is a common element, so arrow mark remains here only, meaning that from this I can write y of 0 is 3, y of 1 is 13, and y of 2 is what? It is 12. Is that right? And you know what? We have been asked only 2 elements, that is y of 1 and y of 2. So see, this tabular method works very effectively, right? Let us go to the next question. So 1, -3, 2, 1 are elements of x of n, and 1, 3, 4 are elements of h of n. See arrow mark very carefully. Arrow mark indicates n equal to 0 position, right? So what I'll do, I'll write x of n here, and I'll be writing h of n here. So x of n elements are 1, -3, 2, 1, and h of n elements are 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. As I said, just go on multiplying them row and column wise. So I'll start with first row, multiply with each column, 1 into anything remains same, so it is going to remain 1 minus 3 to 1. Then start with 3, start multiplying 3 with every column element. So 3 into 1, it is 3, 3 into -3, -9, 3 into 2, it is 6, 3 into 1, it is 3. Then start multiplying with 4, it is 4, -12, 8 and 4 finally. Once you are ready with this, now start making diagonals. And from every diagonal, we will be getting one element. So from this, what we have is 1. Now 3 plus -3, it becomes 0. Then 9 minus 4 or 4 minus 9, it is -5, and -5 plus 2, it is -3. -12 plus 6, -6, -6 plus 1, it is -5. 8 plus 3, it is 11, and this is 4. So whatever elements now I have, I'll write it as y of n. So y of n is 1, 0, -3, -5, then 11, and finally 4. So this is complete sequence y of n. And see to it, even though now sequence, that is x of n as well as h of n, is quite lengthier as compared to the previous sum, but once you go for a tabular method, it takes same time, whatever may be the size of sequence given. So this is quite effective one. Now only one thing is left, to identify y of n equal to 0 position. So how do we identify this? The similar way we did it last time. See to it, n equal to 0 position for x of n is here, and for y of n, it is here. In that case, as I said, just go on extending and see to it whether the common meeting point is. So this is a common meeting point, and in common meeting point, it goes to a second diagonal element, and from second diagonal, what we got element as 0. So this becomes n equal to 0 position. So simple. So as soon as this x of n and h of n look at their n equal to 0 position, extend them and see the common diagonal, and from that common diagonal, what element you get, that is n equal to 0 position. So I'm sure now you are quite comfortable with this discrete time convolution. So now some important observations we are going to see in discrete time convolutions that we have done earlier. Now for every sequence, you will be having 3 properties. That is, you will see what is its lower limit, what is its upper limit, and also you will see length of sequence. So let me just talk about it first. You will be looking at three properties. First, lower limit means from where your sequence is starting. Okay, again let me give you some dummy example. Let's say we have 1 comma 2 comma minus 5 and 2. Okay, and let's say we have some arrow mark here. We understand this arrow mark indicates n equal to 0 position, then this is n equal to minus 1 position, and this is n equal to minus 2 position, and this is n equal to 1 position. So now you have to see at which n position this sequence had started. So as you can see in this sequence had started from minus 2. In that case, lower limit is minus 2. Then see to it what is upper limit in this. So upper limit means where the sequence ends. So sequence ends at n equal to 1. So upper limit becomes 1. And third, very important, that is length of sequence. We indicated by L letter. Length of sequence means number of elements inside your sequence. So let us count first element, second element, third element, fourth element. Since you have 4 elements, length becomes 4. Simple. So lower limit is the nth position from your sequence started. Upper limit is nth position where sequence has ended, and length of sequence means the total number of elements inside the given sequence. So for x of n, we are going to see lower limit, upper limit, length. Not only for x of n, we are going to observe it for x of n, h of n, y of n, and then we will come to a common conclusion. Let us begin. So for x of n, lower limit will be lower limit 1, higher limit will be, or upper limit will be upper limit 1, and let us assume length of sequence is L1. Very simple. Similarly for h of n, it will be having lower limit 2, upper limit 2, and L2. And finally for y of n, we'll see lower limit, its upper limit, and length of sequence. So now let me give you what is the relation between them. If you want to get a lower limit of y of n, it is simply lower limit 1 plus lower limit 2. Okay, so just add them and get this lower limit, just add them and get upper limit. So I can write upper limit for y of n is upper limit for x of n plus upper limit for h of n. Very simple. If you want to get length of sequence in y of n, then L is simply L1 plus L2. Only difference, it is also having minus 1. So we will now see these properties first, okay, and thereafter we'll go for this property. So first property, second property, and third property. With respect to x of n, h of n, and y of n, we have seen. Now we will verify in the sums that we have done earlier. So we have done 2 sums on discrete time convolution. So we'll confirm these properties and then we'll get back to these observations. So let us see. So we understand it, this is n equal to 0 position. So your x of n started with n equal to minus 1. This is n equal to 1, this is n equal to 2. So from x of n observation, we got lower limit 1, that is for x of n. So I'm writing it for x of n. What is lower limit 1? It is minus 1. Upper limit 1 for x of n, it is n equal to 2. So upper limit is 2. And let us see what is length of sequence. Length of sequence means total number of elements in x of n. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 elements are there. I'll write L1 equal to 4. So this is observation for x of n. Now we will observe h of n. So h of n will give you lower limit 1. Observe, it is starting at n equal to 0. So lower limit, okay, I need to say it is lower limit 2 instead of lower limit 1. It is 0. Upper limit 2. So this is n equal to 1 and this is n equal to 2, means h of n ends at n equal to 2. So upper limit is 2. And length of sequence L2. Number of elements, if you see, there are 3 elements inside h of n. It is 3. Is that right? So by formula for y of n, lower limit is always lower limit 1 plus lower limit 2. Lower limit 1 is minus 1. Lower limit 2 is 0. It is minus 1. Please verify. As you can see, n equal to 0, n equal to minus 1. So now it is verified that Actually y of n it's starting with n equal to -1 sample. So lower limit formula is verified. Similarly, higher limit or upper limit is given by upper limit 1 plus upper limit 2. So see to it, what is upper limit 1? It is 2. Upper limit 2 is also 2. So 2 plus 2 will become 4. So as you can see, this is n equal to 0. This is n equal to 1, n equal to 2, n equal to 3, n equal to 4. So as you can see, the last sample is at n equal to 4, meaning that this upper limit formula is also working. And only one thing is need to be observed, that is length of sequence formula. So if you remember length sequence formula, so if you want to calculate L for y of n, it is given as L1 plus L2 minus 1, am I right? So what is L1? That is number of samples in x of n, which is 4. L2, that is number of samples in h of n, was 3 minus 1. So it comes out to be 6. So let us verify. In y of n, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 samples. See, everything gets verified. And let me tell you, these properties, if known to you, most of the time you don't have to really solve the sum. Just by looking at the property, just by observing the length of sequence, lower limit and upper limit of x of n, h of n and y of n, sometimes some of the options get eliminated. If you're lucky, out of 4, 3 options will get eliminated, and without solving the sum, you will see what is the correct option. So same property we will be again verifying for the previous sum that we have done. So this was the previous sum. So just by observation, see what is lower limit 1? It is simply 0. Okay, lower limit 2, it is also 0 because h of n is also starting with n equal to 0. So if you just add them up, lower limit will become 0. So if you see its answer, y of n, it's starting with n equal to 0 position. I'm sure you must have written the sum so you can verify it yourself. Similarly, upper limit 1, for x of n, it ends at n equal to 1. Upper limit 2, it means we have to confirm for h of n, that is n equal to 1 only. So 1 plus 1 becomes 2. So upper limit for y of n, you can verify it is 2. And similarly, length of sequence for y of n also you can observe. For x of n, length of sequence is 2. For h of n, length of sequence is 2. So 2 plus 2 minus 1, that is 3. So number of sequences in y of n must be 3. If you remember when we have done this sum, okay, you can observe here. Length of sequence in y of n, it is 3. Lower limit, if you see, it is 0. And upper limit, if you see, it is 2. Is that right? So now it is verified, these properties are working. Now only one observation property is left. So we'll just go for it. So this is fourth property. Now we are going to see. What it says, summation of y of n is always summation of x of n multiplied by summation of y of n. Now what does it really mean? We have to first of all see x of n. In this x of n, we got some multiple elements. Summation means just add all the elements inside x of n. So you'll get summation of x of n. Then observe y of n, take summation of all the elements, you'll get summation of y of n. And if you multiply them, you will see that surprisingly it is equal to summation of all samples in y of n. So let us observe this. So we'll see summation of x of n here. So add these elements. So 1 plus minus 3, it is minus 2. Minus 2 plus 2, 0. 0 plus 1, it is 1. So simply summation of x of n is 1. See summation of h of n now. So just add them, 1 plus 3, it is 4, and 4 plus 4, it is 8. Okay. Now the property says that if you multiply these two, then you will get summation of y of n. Let us see. This is your y of n. Just go on adding. 1 plus 0, 1. 1 minus 3, minus 2. Minus 2 minus 5, minus 7. Minus 7 plus 11 plus 4, it is simply 8. So see, this property is also working. Even for this problem, we will see summation of x of n, it is 1 plus 3, which is 4. Summation of h of n, it is 7. And 4 sevens are 28. That should be summation of y of n. So this is y of n. It is 13 plus 3, it is 16. 16 plus 12, it is verse 28. So as you can see, these properties are working. Remembering these properties is very important from gate point of view.